Admit it. You think that cybercrime is something that happens to other people. Come on, you're thinking it right now. You may think nobody wants your data. Like, who are you? You're not important, right? We're not important. What difference does it make? You think hackers can't grab your passwords or your credit card details. But you'd be wrong. That's right. Stealing data from unsuspecting people on public Wi-Fi is one of the simplest and cheapest ways for hackers to make money. When you leave your internet connection unencrypted, you might as well just be writing your passwords and credit card numbers on a huge billboard for the rest of the world to see. That's why I took action. I protect myself from cyber criminals. I use ExpressVPN. I use it every day, everywhere I go. ExpressVPN is going to secure and anonymize your internet browsing by encrypting your data and hiding your public IP address. Your ExpressVPN has easy-to-use apps that run seamlessly in the background of your computer, phone, and tablet. I go to the app. I just click a button. Boom, it's on. You turn it on with just one click. ExpressVPN is going to give you the ability to safely surf on public Wi-Fi without being snooped on or having my personal data stolen. So for only $7 a month, you can get the exact same ExpressVPN protection that I have. Now, how many of you have not used public Wi-Fi on a plane or at a fast food restaurant? Or come on, tell the truth. Get ExpressVPN. You need it. It's the #1 VPN service by TechRadar. That's how they ranked it, #1, so you can't go wrong. And it comes with a 30-day money-back guarantee. So protect your online activity today and find out how you can get 3 months free at expressvpn.com/watchchad. Yep, you heard me right. ExpressVPN, expressvpn.com/watchchad. For 3 months free with a 1-year package, visit expressvpn.com/watchchad to learn more. It is party time, Mom. Welcome back to Studio 22, the Chad Prather Show. We are hanging out here in this freshly air-conditioned room. I love having air conditioning in this room now. Puppet Master Mark, it's so nice.
Yeah, it almost feels like you're not even in the same studio anymore.
No.
Like, I leave the lights on in between tapings because it's not 100 degrees.
I know.
It's amazing.
Can you imagine how hot it would be now?
Oh, my gosh.
Texas summer.
Yeah.
How hot this room would be.
We probably wouldn't have a show anymore because we would all be...
I'd quit.
We wouldn't be alive anymore. So.
I may quit anyway. Yeah. I don't know. Hey, thank you for watching this podcast. If you're watching on Facebook, go over to YouTube. People are starting to get it. People are starting to get it a little bit. They're like, okay, we'll go to YouTube. And so I've seen the comments. Go over to YouTube, watch it over there. Tell your friends about it. Also go where podcasts are wherever they're distributed, and that's everywhere. So go to blazetv.com/humor. blazetv.com/humor. Yeah, promo code Chad. I'm just thinking out loud at this point in time. Candice, the queen of the Ethiopians. I feel like I haven't seen you in forever.
It's been a while.
It has been a minute.
Have everyone back.
Days away from, just a couple of days away from you feels like an eternity. It's just, you are the sunshine of my life.
Oh, thank you.
You really are.
Happy to be here.
You are just a bright, shining light in my life, and I'm thankful for you.
Aw.
We're going to lunch tomorrow.
Okay.
We're going to talk business. We're going to take over the world, Candice.
That was just the natural next step.
That is the next step. We don't mess around here, the Chad Prather Show. We're going to have a good time on this podcast. I can't wait to get into this episode, but let me remind everybody sitting over in the peanut gallery, we got Party Foul Steve, as always. Look at him looking happy.
Yeah, I'm all warm and fuzzy after the whole intro Candace got.
What do you want me to do?
Chopped liver over here?
You want me to come over there and hug you or something?
Yeah, maybe.
You are a needy man.
That'd
very
be good for
needy.
the ratings.
He's a needy man.
Needy.
Natalie,
Yes, sir.
don't give him what he needs. Do not give him. That man is needy. He will suck your soul right out of you.
You give him everything he needs.
I would suck her soul right out of her.
Hot news, Natalie, over there. Time to put up with Party Foul Steve.
Howdy.
Oh, my goodness gracious. Did y'all take your selfie today?
Yes.
I'm posting it.
Make sure you're following them on social media so you can get their daily selfies. And in the hot seat, I'm excited about this. We're going to go long today. We're going to go long. We may actually turn this into 2 episodes. We'll see. I'm excited about this. You've watched me do these podcast shorts with Party Foul Steve. We call them things Party Foul doesn't know. And typically I try to ask him some questions from history. Many times I don't even know if I'm right. when I'm calling him wrong, but I think I'm close. I have got Jeff Copsetta, who is sitting here. Jeff is a World War II historian. Yeah.
You can say that.
Yeah. And I love it. We sat around last night over at Party Foul's house. We smoked a cigar or two, and you drank wine.
A bottle or two.
Yeah, we had a little whiskey, and woke up with a headache because I think we ran out of the Bushmills, and then I ran out of the Redneck Riviera, and then
Then you went home.
Then I went home.
Party ended.
Yeah. Party time, Mom. Yeah. Went home, and I don't remember much of that, but we had a great conversation.
Yes, sir, we
We
did.
had a fun talk. Why is World War II important?
Man, it's relevant today as it was when it was current events, really. Never again are we going to see this country come together like we did in, what were we involved, less than 4 years?
Yeah.
And we take on two superpowers on two opposite sides of planet Earth and come out victorious on both ends. And, when we were attacked at Pearl Harbor at the beginning of the war, we were ranked 17th militarily in the world. Mm-hmm. We went from 17th to number 1. Mm-hmm. And it wasn't just the guys on the ground. It's the entire country coming together at home, fighting for one cause, and one cause alone. Good versus evil, man. That's all it was.
Yeah.
Good versus evil.
That's the thing that I don't think people. It's important to me. I've always been a student, or fascinated by at least, but a student of World War I and that era, and what led into World War II. And I feel like with World War II, so many people have just disregarded it to the past and relegated it to something that doesn't matter anymore, but it does. And you're right. And it's a shameful thing when you think about, no, I don't think we could come together now the way they did. Let's talk, for instance, let's talk about the war bonds for a second. Let's talk about Iwo Jima and that famous picture of those Marines lifting that flag. Mm-hmm. Let's talk about that and what that accomplished. Because I know you've seen the movie and all that stuff, but let's talk about the real deal.
Right. Well, first we got to realize there were 6 war bond drives before that one.
Mm-hmm.
That picture represented the 7th and final war bond for the war. And man, we were running out of money. And that war was still going on. I mean, let's face it, we knew Japan sealed their fate on December 7th, 1941. There was no way they were going to keep up with us with our industrial might. And Germany, same thing. It's going to run out. So it's just a matter of time. But yeah, there's a lot of controversy. There always has been around that picture and that flag going up, the second flag. A lot of people don't even realize that. People thought the picture was posed after the fact because of what it turned into. It was such an incredible, like I said, 1/700th of a second can change the world, and that picture certainly did. But yeah, so the target,
they wanted a bigger flag.
Right, wanted a bigger flag. Yeah, they put
the first flag they put up.
Yeah, and that was great. And the second one, nobody really paid attention to. The flag was already there. We're just putting a bigger one up.
Yeah.
Sending a message. It wasn't the end of the battle. That was only 4 days really into the battle, and the battle raged for another 30 days.
Yeah.
But it was the high ground of that island, and that was an important target. So, put a flag up, and we put a flag on every island we took in the Pacific during World War II. A lot of people don't think about that. It wasn't the first time we did it. So that was towards the end of the war. So how important was it? Just another flag going up? But it was important because of what it represented back home. For some reason, that picture, when we see it, it represented something that people could believe in, and they did. Mm-hmm. And they believed in it by buying war bonds. And that war bond drive, I think, raised twice as much money as their target.
Yeah.
So that's
because they were hoping to raise like what, $7 billion?
I can't remember.
$7 billion. They raised like whatever 20.
Whatever it was.
Yeah,
Crazy,
it was
incredible,
outrageous
and
number.
That's
I mean,
not
we're
today
talking
numbers.
We're talking 1940s
right.
America. We're not
right.
talking today.
Exactly.
And you're right, and we were talking about this, and I need to look this back up too, and somebody could probably correct me, but our Navy was not strong. Right. When we were bombed at Pearl Harbor, but it by the end of the war, like you said, it got pretty dang strong.
Yeah.
And you have to give credit to, men and women who were involved in that. On the 75th anniversary of D-Day, I posted a picture on Instagram. I kind of, sometimes I want to go against the grain, and just put some, and I put pictures of of the nurses that were arriving in Normandy, and the girls were coming in their fatigues, and they're coming in to work with work on these boys. See, that's a part of history that people just don't realize.
Right.
Talking about that though, we got into talking about Iwo Jima, but then I brought up James Bradley's book Flyboys, because a lot of people have seen the Clint Eastwood Flags of Our Fathers, and I never trust if the movie's accurate. I like to read the books. I read the books and then I watch the movies, then I'll go from there. Movies are made to be entertaining.
Right.
Some are good war movies and some are just not so much. But Flyboys was about these pilots who, crashed around Iwo Jima or its sister island, the smaller Chichijima, which the Japanese also held, and just the horrific stuff that went on with these POWs, where you talk about good versus evil. Mm-hmm. They'd pour water on a samurai sword and try to slice their head off. And the reason they pour the water on there was so nothing would stick to the blade. And a lot of times it didn't come off in one hack. They had to hit them a couple of times. Yeah. And then, the commander of the Japanese army there in Chichijima even resorted to cannibalism because he was trying to, it was just tribalistic, horrible stuff.
Yeah.
And people don't, George H.W. Bush, he crash landed there. And had he not been picked up by the submarine that just happened to be there, the boat was like 100 yards away from taking him.
Right.
And history is changed like that because of what some would consider luck.
Yeah. Luck's got a lot to do with it.
Yeah.
It really does.
I mean, that's a crazy thing.
Yeah.
The Pacific War, though, and I know people, they pay attention to Nazi Germany. They pay attention to the invasion of Normandy and Omaha Beach and those things. But how much is the Pacific theater of that just kind of forgotten? It's kind of lost to history.
It's glossed over. It's Pearl Harbor, Iwo Jima, atom bomb.
Yeah.
It really, and it's a shame because, I mean, here's, I don't want to fill this thing up with statistics and numbers.
Bring it on. I love it.
And Party Foul Steve, he's not going to like this. I know, him being a former Marine. And I do have to say, because, I know he gets a bad rap about knowing a whole lot about history, but it was funny, last night I was listening to him, he almost word for word, he was telling me about the speech that Abraham Lincoln, when he addressed the nation, about the Germans bombing Pearl Harbor. So the guy knows his stuff. Sorry about
Lincoln was looking decrepit in the 40s. Yeah. He really was, man.
But yeah, when you think,
Abraham drinking.
When you think of the Pacific, though, we think of the Marines storming the beach, and here's some numbers for you. So there were the Marine Corps fielded 6 divisions during World War II. The 6th one was actually stood up overseas, and they were strictly in the Pacific. Mm-hmm. The Army, because I'm a soldier, I'm gonna brag a little bit. The Army fielded 99 divisions, but 20 of them served in the Pacific during World War II. 20 Army divisions against 6 guys like him. Mm-hmm. 6 divisions of those guys, Not taking anything away what the Marine Corps did, of course, in the Pacific during World War II. That's not what this is about. But that's a number that's extremely glossed over. Yeah. So that what are 20 Army divisions doing over there? I'm pretty sure they're taking islands too. Yeah. So it's things like that if you didn't know that, then you probably don't know a whole lot about what's going on in the Pacific like we think we do. And,
you brought this up last night, and I was fascinated, and I did download the book. I downloaded one of the books that we were talking, just good things to read, and started reading it last night. I did do that when I got home. I was laying there in bed, and I was not reading the book anymore. But you think of like the Nuremberg trials, and the Nazi war crimes and stuff like that. That was a very publicized thing, where you talk about hunting Nazis throughout the world who were hiding out in Argentina and all these things and trying to get away from their war crimes. But you don't hear that about the Japanese. You don't hear about Japanese war crimes or tribunals like that. Yeah. Why not? Y'all are gonna love this.
I don't know if I want to go into that too much. Man.
I do want you. Yeah,
it's a sore spot, I think, in American history, and maybe there's a reason we gloss this over. There absolutely was a genocide happening that the Japanese were creating when they started colonizing China in the 30s, and what they were doing to those Chinese people. Man, golly, if people only knew what they were doing over there, and the way they were experimenting with killing another human. just every possible way you could think of with different neurotoxins and chemicals and things like that. And well, that may actually be decent medical research. Maybe we're going to make a deal with the devil, and we get the research, and not a single Japanese officer is tried for a war crime.
And that's basically the deal they made. They said, you give us the research. How long does a human eyeball twitch after they've been beheaded?
Right.
This kind of gory stuff.
Right.
They're like, you give us, and it turns out to be major medical research that they get.
Yeah.
Like, you do that, and then we'll give you a pass on that. Do you know that, Natalie? Do you know anything about that?
I'm here in class, sitting at the back
Yeah.
of the class to not be asked any questions. Thank you very much.
Google Unit 731.
Mm-hmm.
Unit
will.
731. And there's numerous books that have been written about this. It is a forgotten piece of American history when it comes to World War II. It is that low point, that low point of American history that we don't like to admit that this happened, that these things existed, and that we basically were partied to it. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Candace, did you know about this?
I did not know.
Yeah, it was atrocious. And I was telling you the story about my friend. We went to the Philippines, and he's half Japanese, and we were like, oh, this is going to be interesting because the Filipinos, they still have huge animosity towards the Japanese for what happened during World War II in that theater of war because of those atrocities. It was barbaric. It was, and took my friend over there, and you could tell he's Japanese. And it was an interesting little trip.
Yeah.
Interesting trip. But and then you hear stories of ships sinking and the Pacific. People don't realize how big the Pacific Ocean is. I don't think.
Yeah.
I mean, that's a third of the planet, basically. And these ships are crossing, and they get torpedoed and they sink, and now guys are out in the water, and there's sharks, and this is a horrific thing. There's a lot of stories about those type deals.
Yeah, I mean, just thinking the logistics. I mean, yeah, you land on an island. We assault an island. Okay, great. Where are their beans, bullets, and Band-Aids coming from?
Yeah.
It takes a long way for that boat to get it over there and supply these guys. And same for the Japanese.
Yeah.
They didn't really have the upper hand that much when it came to logistics. The ocean's just as big for them as it was for us. So how do we combat that? Well, we just make more.
Yeah.
More and more and more and more and more. And get it over there as much as we can. It's just a war of attrition at that point,
I don't think people realize how isolated places like Hawaii or Guam.
Yeah.
These islands that are out in the Pacific. I mean, they're very isolated, and all of those places played pivotal roles in the Philippines, of course.
Absolutely.
In terms of that Pacific theater. Yeah. What about? Did you see the movie Thin Red Line?
I did.
Yeah. What'd you think of that in terms of the?
I can't remember anything about it.
I don't. Me either.
I was really
That's why I
disappointed.
brought it up. I can't remember anything. I remember it was about a guy who went AWOL, basically, and didn't want to go back to war.
It was a great setting.
Yeah. Exactly. That's why I was asking. I was like, because I was sitting there in my head, I was trying to think of good movies, but there's one coming out. There's one coming out, Midway.
Yes.
They're doing a remake of Midway.
Yeah. Well, and even not just a remake, they're expanding. Midway focused really about those decisions that the top brass made in breaking the code and what Nimitz had to do as Commander-in-Chief Pacific Fleet. But this, I saw the trailer. They're covering Pearl Harbor, Doolittle Raid, and then the climax at Midway. Mm-hmm. So those first 6-7 months, if you don't know anything about the war, you should probably go see this movie and be educated, because we went from, oh boy, the darkest hour that Sunday morning to turning the tide against a very, like you said, a superior Japanese Navy to what we had at the time to throw at them. And in a matter of minutes, 4 of the 6 carriers that were responsible for Pearl Harbor were at the bottom of the drink. Wow. In a matter of minutes during the Battle of Midway. So, yeah.
Do you think that was the turning point?
It's recognized as the turning point, but it can be argued that a few months later, when we invaded Guadalcanal, kind of went on the first offensive on land, and taking that island and being able to not only take it but hold it and use it as a springboard for the island hopping campaign for every island after that, could also be seen as the turning point. But I mean, like I said, I think they sealed their fate the same day they attacked us. So maybe that was a turning point.
Yeah.
They should just left us alone because guess what? We're America and we win.
Yeah, exactly.
That's what we do.
That's what we do.
People don't like to think that we do. People like to say that we don't now, but we do.
We do. Still do.
We freaking win.
Yeah. What was that phrase we kept using last night? We lay waste.
Yeah.
We show up and lay waste, man.
Right.
We've had so many guests on this podcast, and they're warriors, you know? We had the big debate about heroes. What is a hero and all those things. That was fun.
Yeah.
That was fun.
Yeah.
That's good stuff. It's crazy, man.
Yeah.
Crazy the conversations you can get into over a glass of whiskey in a driveway. But it was, you know, you look at MacArthur who says, you know, stands there in Manila and says, I'll return.
Mm-hmm.
And then they feel abandoned by that. You got any thoughts on that? Like just because we talk about the logistics of it. I mean, there was a lot going on.
Right. My only thought is I'm glad he returned.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, I mean that's a tough one.
Yeah.
Because he is such a controversial leader. He's a controversial part of history. Yeah, did they do the right thing? Well, by pulling him out early, well, I think so.
Yeah,
it was tough for all the other guys that got left there, and you know the Bataan Death March and everything. I mean that's, you know, that sucks. But that's just that's how it is, and that's history. And that is why we can't forget it.
right.
You know, that's the bottom line.
You know, what's the movie about the guy who was the Olympic runner in
Unbroken.
Unbroken?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so I read Unbroken. And I mean, that's horrific.
Yeah.
You know what he went through, and of course, the movie tried to represent that as good as it possibly could.
Right.
But you think of just the pure suffering, and war is an ugly thing.
Right.
You know, it's you know, history's defined by man's inhumanity to man. It's happened as long as recorded history has been going on. You can go all the way back to Cain killing Abel with a rock.
Mm-hmm.
You know, so it's always going to be there, and there's always going to be that. And I think that, again, as we've said, if you don't know your history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Right.
And this is one of those things. You know, we're looking at, you know, you're looking at fighting, like you said, two great superpowers on either side of the country.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and people don't realize how close things came to that happening here on our soil.
Right.
I mean, we could have just as easily been, you know, you got German subs off the Atlantic coast.
Yep.
You know, you got Japanese subs. I mean, I get all my history from the movie 1941. You know, John Belushi. Where they rolled an anti-cannon up there, you know, and put it in the front yard.
Well, and Japanese hit our mainland soil too with the Fumi bombs.
Yeah.
Bet you didn't know that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Where was that?
Paper mache bombs, man. They were putting them up, and the wind stream would catch them, take them across the Pacific, and they were actually, I think what they were meant to do was start forest fires up in the Pacific Northwest, Portland area. And
it's still inflamed. Portland's still inflamed. Yeah.
So it really wasn't meant to harm people, but it was meant to create, you know, wildfires in the Pacific Northwest. That's taking our wood, you know, resources away. Plus, now we're actually having to spend resources to not extinguish these forest fires. It was a catastrophic failure, but it did actually. There was a family that was killed by a Fumi bomb.
Really?
Yeah. So I believe in Washington State, Oregon, somewhere up there. Two actually landed in Texas, didn't detonate.
No kidding.
Yeah, and I think there was one that
floated
made
a long
it to
way.
Yeah, and I think one made it to Michigan, was the furthest east. But yeah, look it up.
Wow.
Google it. Yeah.
It's amazing the things people don't realize
Yeah.
that are there.
Yeah. I just blew everybody's mind in the studio.
I know.
I'm done.
If I could spell it, if I could spell it,
My job is done. I made everybody Google some weird stuff tonight when they go home. This guy, man, where do you learn this stuff? Yeah.
I love that though. Those are the aspects of, you know, and there's some really good books, and if you're not a reader, there's some really good podcasts out there that are talking about. Which was the one you were telling me about World War I?
Oh man, Dan Carlin's Hardcore History. Yeah. Countdown to Armageddon. It's like 7 episodes. I don't know. Each episode's like 3.5 weeks long, but you know, you get through it, and it's everything you could ever want to know about the First World War, and really how catastrophic it was to the human race. Like you're saying, I mean, look at what it did to the people in France. Talking about that last night. I mean, almost an entire generation of boys was wiped out.
Yeah, 10 million.
Jeez.
10 million in World War I in the nation of France.
Yeah.
Which is why they were so easy to conquer and dominate whenever Hitler decided to march on them.
So
they didn't have men to defend
incredible.
it. Yeah, that's and like you said, World War II started in 1918.
That's right.
Yeah, because it just, the war to end all wars didn't end anything.
Yeah, it opened the doors for a new, uglier war.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How many people died in World War II? Do you know a full number on that?
Freaking know, man.
Yeah, I know. It's a lot. That's why I'm genuinely asking, because I don't know. And I should know. There are a lot.
Yeah, I know the Russians lost more than any other country.
Yeah. Well, at that point in time, they were basically just putting them out there as cannon fodder.
Yeah.
It was like we were using resources more. They were just lining men up.
Right.
And, we talked about this on an episode, the Battle of Moscow, when the Germans were coming in there. The Germans, their supply train didn't get there, for whatever reason, didn't make it. And, it's on the wrong track in the wrong place, and their wagons are getting bogged down in the mud. And these Germans are having to push these things out of the mud and get them unstuck. And then when their trains gets there, the track's a different size. So now they're having to rebuild Russian track to get in there. And I stood in the spot where, the Russians stopped. Yeah. The Germans. They're just outside of Moscow. And in that situation, it was just total bloodshed.
Yeah.
Just absolute waste. Yeah. So. Yeah, but that's one of those things where we look at, and the reason I asked that question about how many people died in World War II, and I know somebody will immediately do it, and then we'll go, oh yeah, they'll say
knew that.
We knew that. But you look at, and you've been there, you've been on 400 combat missions yourself. You've been in the Middle East, and it's sad that we've lost anyone in that, but nothing compared to what. We talk about a few thousand people that have died in these, Afghanistan, Iraq, and things like that, but we're talking millions.
73 million from 1939 to 1945.
Isn't that what you said, 73 million?
That's exactly what I said.
Yeah.
That's exactly what I said in DC. You were probably sitting over there with a number, weren't you? Huh? Were you?
No.
You didn't have it? Yeah. Look at Party Foul Steve.
Google.
Well,
Google.
But you bring up a good point there, because I don't think wars should be judged by how many we lose, because I saw it firsthand. I remember when we first went over, I think we lost a little over 200 in Iraq, and I remember I was kind of making a deal in my truck, in my Humvee, like, man, I hope we get out of here before we hit 500. And then we hit 500, and we hit like 750. Like, man, I hope we get out before we hit 1,000. I remember when that 1,000th KIA happened, everybody knew his name, and it was like, man, what about 999? What about 762? What about 501? Mm-hmm. All of a sudden, we lost 1,000 soldiers overseas, and everybody went berserk back home. Yeah. Let me tell you, if we got to lose one, or you got to lose 1 million for the cause, for what this country means, then that's what has to happen. Yeah. Sorry to say it, but you got to fight for what you believe in, or we wouldn't be here.
Yeah. And that is that element of that valor, virtue, if you will, that existed so strongly in America at the time of World War II. Yeah. These people were lined up. These guys were lined up down the street to sign up. Yeah. They, after Pearl Harbor, they were ready to go. Yeah. We were going to war, and everybody was pitching in. There were drives, there were bonds, war bonds. People were Rosie the Riveter. You got all these things that are we talk about. But at the same time, and we talked about this a lot already, in personal conversation, back to that hero conversation, because every show that I do, I take a serious moment. And I say America's the greatest country on the planet because we got men and women willing to put that uniform on with the purpose and of serving and sacrificing and potentially giving their life for our liberty. That's what makes America great. It is, but it's not. Oh, we feel sorry for you. Signed up, you took the oath, you raised your hand, you signed up to defend the Constitution, defend America, and people lose their life. That's what they signed up for. And as hard as that is, that's the reality.
Right.
That is the reality. And
I don't think anybody signs up to lose their life, but it's an inherent risk. It is. It's part of the job. It's built into the deal. If you don't think that's not part of the job, you don't need to be there. Yeah. Maybe it's not for you. Yeah. Yeah.
That's what you're living with.
Yeah.
And I I always go further, and I even talk about law enforcement and firefighters and stuff like that. You know, I think you brought up a great point. Last night you were talking about. You said,
yeah, soldiers go to war. Marines, sailors, airmen, Coast Guardmen. We go to war, and people like to tell us that we shouldn't have been there when we get back. And what I brought up last night is you think about my dad's a retired police officer, 25 years, man. And if a police officer has, for whatever reason, probable cause to pull a vehicle over, maybe they're swerving all over the road, and he pulls the vehicle over, routine traffic stop, and he walks up to the vehicle, and the driver puts a bullet in that police officer's head, nobody tells that family that police officer shouldn't have been there. A firefighter goes into a burning building, and he gets everybody out, and then the building comes down around him. Nobody says, oh, that firefighter shouldn't have been in that burning building. But how come when you raise your right hand to support and defend the Constitution of the United States and you go to war and unfortunately somebody loses their life, why are people telling their families that their son shouldn't have been there? Mm-hmm. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
Nobody wants to die for their country. We get that. But it's part of it. It comes with the spurs, man. It comes with the uniform. And that's just how it is.
Yeah.
That's how I feel. People don't like it. That's fine.
That's okay.
It's okay.
That's what we do here. It's party time, Mom. He's here to piss everybody off. Natalie, are you mad?
That was deep.
I know.
So true.
But it's true. The logic, I think people have lost that ability to think critically and see that logic that's in there.
It's hard to think critically when you're complaining all the time.
That's right. That's exactly right. But those soldiers, those Marines, those airmen, those sailors, those Coast Guardmen, those are the ones who gave us this great country we live in. Because have you seen what's that? I had to stop watching it. It just got ludicrous. But the Man in the High Castle. Did you see any of that stuff where it was if we had lost World War II, and so half the country was occupied by Japan and the other half was occupied by. Basically, it was split at the Rocky Mountains. The rest was occupied by Germany.
Wow.
It got a little wonky and weird, but it was an interesting concept of what that looked like because now Americans were living as an oppressed people, as a suppressed people, as a defeated people, and that carried on into the generations. And it's interesting when you think. We live in a country that not only will we bomb the of you, but we'll help you rebuild.
Yeah, pretty cool how that works. Cool how that works.
Yeah, isn't that crazy?
Yeah,
I mean, and a compassionate country at that. We were talking about this because I was at David Barton's Wall Builders Museum, and he was showing me the actual pamphlets that they flew over and dropped on Hiroshima before and said, basically, get out of Dodge.
Yeah,
something's coming that you do not want to be a part of. And so we warned them and said, this is a deal. Yeah. But at what point in time do you think Japan, because I know the whole, the emperor, divine destiny, they were going to fight to the very last Japanese, at what point in time do you think they knew they were defeated? Was it the bomb? Because we talk about that. It was like, they knew they'd awakened the sleeping tiger, at Pearl Harbor.
Giant. Yeah,
we sleeping giant. We knew that, but at what point in time do you think they looked at each other and said, "And which being
when did they start speaking
we're
German?
Screwed. We're screwed.
Yeah, man, I don't know. That's a good question. I bet you it was different for a bunch of the different facets of the Japanese military during World War II. I mean, the Imperial Japanese Army and the Imperial Japanese Navy did not get along. Imperial General Headquarters was just always in a form of chaos during the war. The Army was trying to run things, the Navy was trying to run things. So it's a little bit different than the way we run our military then and now. But they probably didn't think we were going to sink their aircraft carriers at Midway. Bet you they didn't think we were going to do that with a bunch of antiquated. Airplanes and less experienced pilots. Because you have to remember, we entered the war. We were late. We were late to that war.
Yeah,
they were already fighting for years.
They'd gone on for a few years.
But I don't know. I guess it wasn't after the first bomb, right?
Right.
we had to do it. We had to do it again.
Do another one. And why Nagasaki?
Well, Nagasaki, I think, was a contingent target. That I can't think of the primary target for that day, but I think it was clouded over. It was just like that, man.
Yeah.
Could have been that other city,
We'll
and it's Nagasaki instead.
Yeah.
Look,
you think it's the right thing? Was it the right thing?
it ended the war.
It ended the war.
I don't know. So if you don't think it was the right thing, I want you to think about this. Purple Hearts that we give out today and have ever since were made for the preparation of the invasion of mainland Japan November 1st, 1945. We expected that many casualties that we're still giving out Purple Hearts.
Wow.
From World War II.
That's interesting.
So the war, we would have come out victorious either way because we're America, but we'd have had to lose a lot more boys to do it.
Yeah.
So that's war. It's checkers. You don't want to lose all your checkers. You want the other guy to lose all his checkers.
Yeah.
I'm sorry they had to lose their checkers, but we like ours here in America.
Yeah.
So
These are my checkers.
right.
Yeah. Like Patton said, you don't. What was it? You don't win war by
dying for your country.
dying for your country. You make the bastard die for his.
And I think Eugene Sledge, a World War II Marine vet, said it best in his book. Paraphrasing, the country's good enough to live in, it's good enough to fight for.
Mm-hmm.
With privilege goes responsibility.
Mm-hmm.
We have all the privileges we want. Nobody wants a gosh dang responsibility.
That's right.
And just because we won World War II doesn't mean that that's it. We brush it off as ancient history. It blends right in with, Thermopylae, Civil War, whatever you name it.
Yeah.
Tripoli. Those are all just words now, and history is a blink of an eye, and it all blends in. But it's relevant. It is relevant. Just because we have it doesn't mean we can't lose it.
Yeah.
Look at the Roman Empire.
Yeah. That's exactly right. And most empires throughout history have only lasted about 200 years.
Yeah.
And here we are on borrowed
And they destroyed
time.
themselves.
They destroyed themselves from the inside for the most part. And that's exactly what Abraham Lincoln said. If America dies, it's going to be because it destroyed itself from the inside. And that's a fact.
Right.
That is a historical fact. Right. And here we are. Here we are, infighting, can't come together. It's right where we started this conversation. That's that last great generation. I mean, those guys that stormed the beach in Normandy, those guys that got on those ships and headed towards Midway, those guys, to see, can you imagine how they would respond when they hear this rhetoric today of people entertaining the ideas of socialism and free stuff?
Yeah, they do. There's still a lot of World War II veterans alive, man.
I know. You and I know a lot of mutual ones, and I've had their opinions. Right. I've heard them.
They all have the same opinion as far as
do.
I've sound. I mean, it's crazy. I feel bad for them. I do. I feel bad that they're living to see, what they did. And any war, man, any war. Let's not forget all the wars in between World War II and today. They're all warriors.
They are.
It's just how we want to spin it.
Yeah.
And the rhetoric that people like to use.
Yeah.
So.
And we're still at war.
What's that?
And we're still at war.
Still at war.
Good.
America forgets that.
We talked about that last night. Football players are good because they play football every gosh dang day. Mm-hmm. You're good at what you do because you talk every day.
I run my mouth every day.
You run your mouth every day, and you're good at it. If you want to be good at war, what do you got to do every day? Mm-hmm. If we're no longer at war, some other country is planning a war against us, and they're going to have the newest, best thing on the battlefield, and then we're going to get caught unaware again. We've already had that happen to us twice. We can't let it happen again.
Yeah.
So the American military has got to be training, and you train as you fight. There's bad guys out there, so let's go get them.
Yeah. They want nothing more than to destroy America.
Right.
Nothing more.
Right.
And here it is. And again, I don't know that the average person out there today realizes how much they're hated, how much someone wants to destroy them.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah. I worked with a lot of other countries over in Iraq, man, other countries' militaries. And I was like, oh, wow, I guess we're the laughingstock of the world.
Yeah.
I was like, I had no idea because we go around thinking we're the best, and we are. But yeah, you're right.
How the
when
world
you're
sees
the
it.
biggest guy on the playground.
Yeah. What do you want to do today, Spike?
But sooner or later, a bunch of little guys are going to beat up on that one bully.
Yeah,
and
the mouse
down.
The mouse
can't
that
let it
roared.
get to that point.
Yeah, the mouse that roared. I mean,
Yeah.
you never know. You gotta guard your six. You gotta guard those weak
That's right.
spots. I've always said, I saw this sign in a farmer's market years ago, and it said, today's spot is tomorrow's rot. And it's talking about on the fruit. It was telling the people working there, you got to pull that out, because if you don't, it's gonna rot anyway. There's a spot there.
Right.
And it's almost like a cancer that's going on in America these days, where people they look at this country that has been made so great. Do we have our flaws? Yeah, of course we do. We've got our sins. We've got our scars. We've done things wrong. But we got this country that is so great, but yet they're wanting to bring in ideas that are going to fundamentally change it.
Yeah.
And that doesn't make sense to me. That just doesn't make sense to me. And I mean, how much injustice does the average person in America today feel like they have really received in the greatest country with the greatest opportunities?
Right.
And I mean, and getting better in regards to opportunities and even equality and things like that. We don't live in a country with institutionalized racism. We don't live with institutionalized, hate. There's none of that. It doesn't exist in America today. And that's a pretty great thing. Unfortunately, people want to stoke those fires and try to keep that alive.
They do, but it's not going to change anything. It's not going to change my America.
Right.
Or how I feel about this country. Just don't watch the news.
That would be a
just
great
live
thing,
in a bubble
wouldn't it?
like I do, man. I don't know what the heck's going on. It doesn't bother me. It really doesn't.
I said it 25 years ago. CNN was on. I remember when Ted Turner had CNN and that thing came on. I said, that right there is going to be problematic, because they'll only know how to report bad news, because that's what's going to get the viewers. And there's no possible way that you can air something 24/7 like mainstream media does and not bring up the most vile crap of humanity that exists. We didn't know what war. So we were talking last night, World War I. I'm fascinated by that piece of history, because in 1914, humanism was basically the man-made religion of the day. Everybody thought that people were inherently good, and people still, they want to argue me, and they say, people are good. I don't care what Luke Bryan's song says. People aren't good. People aren't good. People do evil things, and they're inherently bad. They do evil things. Even the Bible says that their feet are swift to run towards evil, and their tongues are, it's people, they're crazy. But in 1914, they even had a mantra. People would look. They advised people. They said, look in your mirror every day, and say 20 times, in every day, in every way, I'm getting better. That was actually a philosophical mantra in 1914. These guys are singing songs, writing poems, chanting them, singing them as they're marching off to war, because they thought they were doing this noble and gallant thing. They climb into these trenches. There is chemical warfare. There is just atrocities. That's not broadcast. That's not seen. Like we were talking about Peter Jackson's new documentary, that he took that footage. They will live forever.
They should not grow old.
Yeah, they should not grow old. Thank you. Where he colorized it, but then brought in people to read their lips, because it was silent film.
Right.
These soldiers of World War I, to read their lips and then speak in their dialect from Australia, New Zealand, and places like that. They brought in people from where these guys were from. Pretty fascinating stuff. But that wasn't widespread. You didn't see documentation of what was going on in World War I. You didn't see that. World War II, you didn't see a lot of it. You might have for lack of better terms, the propaganda films that came on before the Clark Gable movie. Hey, across the here comes G.I. Joe. Across the planet, on the other side of the world, American heroes. And so you'd have that kind of thing. But that was kind of a propaganda. Let's get war bonds and things like that. People weren't seeing the atrocities of war.
Right.
They weren't seeing people getting beheaded in Chichijima.
We didn't want them to.
We didn't want them to. It wasn't until Vietnam when all of a sudden people were like, oh, this is rough. This is rough. And, of course, the anti-Vietnam sentiment that was going on in America at the time. Hippies. But people, they don't see it. They just don't see that inhumanity that exists there. But I'm always fascinated because World War I proved that people aren't good. It was such an atrocious event in human history. Horrific. Which, again, basically started in spite of itself with the assassination of Archduke Franz Ferdinand. They did everything they could to screw that assassination attempt up. And again, makes a wrong turn and catches a bullet from an incompetent assassin.
Yeah.
And we're at war.
Changes the world.
It's Europe's at war.
Yeah.
It's a crazy thing. And then you've got the Indochina wars that are happening in the early 30s and these things. And again, that's just a precursor to what came up in World War II.
Yeah.
And here we are.
Yeah.
Is Iran our next war?
If they need it. What do you think?
Told you, I live in a bubble, man.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, I don't know enough to form an opinion, especially not
I think
in
we're
this
a little ways
platform.
off. I think we're a little ways off before that comes to blows. I think the onus is on Iran, based on what I'm seeing. I don't, John Bolton has a little bit of a penchant for going to war. Yeah. He's kind of what they call him a warmonger. But, and he's in Trump's ear. Trump's got some pretty strong opinions in his ear.
Yeah.
And they keep on shooting stuff down like, $150 million drones and these kind of things happen. There'll be some retaliation that's coming there, but we'll see. We'll see.
The CNN will be there to record it happening live.
It'll be Trump's fault. Orange man bad.
Yeah.
It'll be Trump's fault.
Did you have news reporters embedded with you, Jeff?
Yeah. We had we had CNN rolling in our truck the day of the elections, first democratic elections in Iraq. So that was a momentous day.
Tell us the Geraldo Rivera story.
Yeah, we had a
so funny.
To this day, I have no idea how I got back. So
where were y'all, Baghdad?
Yeah, we're in Baghdad, and we didn't know who was coming in. I was a sergeant in the Army, man. I was nothing. They didn't tell me anything. Go to the LZ and pick somebody up. Okay, we're sitting there. We waited all day, and finally 2 Blackhawks come in, and there's Geraldo Rivera coming through. And this is after he had already gone and done his thing.
Yeah.
Anyway, so he gets in the truck with as a bodyguard for a colonel, and he gets in the colonel's truck, and I'm up on the gun in the truck behind him, and we're cruising all through the green zone, which I think is just a ludicrous term. It was more of a target than anything else, the green zone in Baghdad. Yeah. Anyway, so we go to all the checkpoints, and then we started rolling up through Sadr City area, not good places, and I forget there was some groundbreaking, something that was going on, and a little firefight breaks out, and man, he grabs his cameraman, and I guess wants to get some footage.
Takes off running,
and then we went home.
Right. Y'all just left him. Colonels that round him up.
Yeah. So, and like I said, I mean, maybe that was all part of the plan, but to this guy, it was like, oh, I guess we just leave him.
Catch you on the flip side, Geraldo. Okay. He made it back.
Right. Yeah. Apparently he did.
What a trip, man. That is funny.
Yeah. But I tell you, man, there was nothing normal about my time in the Army, man. I mean, I joined peacetime.
Yeah.
And I think I was telling Party Foul Steve last night, I actually called my recruiter up. Like, hey, man, I want to join the Army. And of course my recruiter's like, it's kind of is this a joke? Who is this, prank call? No, for real, And I told him, I wanted to join the Marines. That was my thing as a kid. And, my grandfather was a Marine and my brother was a Marine. And it's kind of, I guess it was my brother's fault why I didn't join. He was around Desert Storm era when he went in, and when he got back from boot camp, he had a little yearbook, talked about all the stuff he did, and I can't swim very good. And I was like, oh, what's this? And he goes, swim training. I was like, huh. Army's looking pretty good.
Boots on the ground.
Yeah. So every time people ask me, "Oh, why'd you choose the Army?" And I tell them I'm afraid of heights and I can't swim, so it narrows it down. You know.
Funny.
But yeah, so I joined up, and that's what I wanted to do. And I remember drill sergeants laughing. Why'd you join the Army? I want to serve my country. Oh yeah, right. Yeah, you went to free education. Like, I didn't go to college until I was like 32.
Yeah.
I went there for the education. I wanted to serve. I love my country. I'm the biggest patriot, and just like you, man. And about halfway through basic training, September 11th happened, and I didn't know what that meant. I did not know what September 11th was. We got rounded up at the end of the day. I guess we were out in the field or something, and drill sergeant lined us up and said, "Who's got family in New York or New Jersey?" Raised my hand. He goes, "You got 2 minutes to make a phone call. We were bombed or something. We were attacked." So I called my dad. He's like, "I don't know. Some planes hit the building." Okay. It wasn't until November that I heard about what it really was and what it meant. I mean, I knew what it meant to me. It was like, oh, I got to take this stuff serious. We're at war now. You know, it changed everything. But I didn't. I had no idea. What people got to see on TV, watching it live, and I'm glad I didn't see it. Yeah. So that set the stage for those four very short years that I was in the Army, and it was I can sum it up with what my colonel said right before we came home from Iraq. He said, "Boys," he said, "you probably don't realize it, but maybe 10 years from now you'll look back and think this is the most important thing you ever did in your life." And he's absolutely right. I tell people I feel like the president of the United States the day after he's no longer president, like, not going to top this. Yeah. I was 21 years old, like, all right, everything from here is downhill. I mean, really, I got to serve. I got, how many generations get to see combat, and I got to wear the best uniform for the best Army, for the best country on planet Earth. Now I'm hanging out with Chad Prather.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. And you thought it was all downhill. You thought it was all downhill. Who knew there were all these good things that were going to be coming in life, man? Yeah. Jeff Copsetta. Make sure you spell his name right.
Yeah.
Yeah, Mark. Yeah. You said that's a made-up name?
Yeah, it's made up, man. The Navy misspelled for my great-grandfather in like 1907. It's Copsetta. Okay.
That's what we stuck with.
That's it. Yeah.
What was it? What was it?
Copsetta.
What?
I think. Copsetta.
How do you spell that? I can't spell that one either.
I'll tell you how I spell it. Copsetta. Welcome to America.
Don't
That's
even
how
worry
we do
about
it
it.
now.
Yeah. Stamp. There you go. Boom.
we have a few more minutes because there's another movie coming out. There's another movie
Let's
coming
talk about
out.
that.
And I'm in it.
Yeah.
A lot of fun. So RJ and his beautiful wife Chelsea, they directed and produced this movie. This guy wrote the book and wrote a script for it, and he's super conservative. Very important that I told you that because he's a big fan. He was a super conservative filmmaker out of the Houston area, and man, I think the guy's really sitting on the gold mine. It's a story. It's about patriotism, spiritualism, America, World War II, and dogs. Does it get really any better than that?
Exactly.
So yeah, it's about war dogs and how we used some of the different breeds of dogs during World War II and how we used them in combat on the island of Guam, specifically in this movie. And it's the most human story. Man, when I read the script, I was like, wow. I didn't know much about war dogs, and I told him that when he brought me on board to kind of be in an advisory role before he ever offered me an acting role. I was like, boy, I don't know much about war dogs in the Pacific, and now I do more than I ever wanted to know. Yeah. Lots of research but what an incredible experience it was, man. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk about it. Sure. Because overnight we had 50, 60 new friends, and it was like an extended family. Yeah. Because everybody was there. Everybody either had strong ties with the military or served in the military and knew how important this was. And it didn't matter if you were cast, crew, if you were continuity, lighting, whatever. Everybody was doing everybody else's job to help out to get this production to see it through to its entirety. And it's post-production now.
What's the name of it?
And it's called Walking Point. Walking Point. And you can buy the book, and you can find it on Amazon. R.J. Nevins is the director and the author. And he wanted me to personally invite you on August 17th I can't tell you where because it's a private screening, but to see it, they've rented out a movie theater in Houston.
Cool.
And all the cast and crew and you can join us for a private screening for the first time of this movie in a movie theater.
Well,
so we'll talk more about that.
Yeah, we'll get that thing sorted out.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Tell him next time he makes a movie, I want to be in it too.
Well, I'll
Natalie.
have my people talk to your people. We'll see what we
No,
can do.
Natalie, you can't be in it.
Right.
You have to be pretty.
We noticed how Jeff was like, he invited you.
Yeah.
You, Chad, nobody else.
Well, there's a reason.
We're going to show up.
Somebody's got to drive him.
Somebody's got to
Steve and I are
drive
going to show up.
Somebody's got to drive him. Somebody's got to blow his nose.
Right. Chad
I
was
didn't know what he was going to say.
plus however many it takes.
Yeah, the end of that sentence made a big difference, didn't it?
Yes.
Walking Point, check it out. Jeff Copsetta, man. Thank you for being on. It's a good time always, man. And we just keep on sipping whiskey, smoking cigars, and making sure we'll fight revisionist history.
I love these shot glasses.
I know, right? See that?
That is
Put
awesome.
that thing on there. It's just the Chad Prather Show, and it's got the bullet in there. I don't know if people ever really notice those or not. It's got the bullet embedded in the side of the glass. It's pretty cool.
That shows you that's American power at work. It can't even get through the glass.
Can't get through the glass. I said, people are like, "Oh, I want to buy one of those. $100."
There you go.
We give them away to our guests. Make sure you get a couple of them before you get out of here. But, cheers, brother. Always a pleasure. And you've known Party Foul Steve forever.
I've known him since before the party.
Yeah. Yeah. Before the foul.
Right. I think the foul was always there.
I think y'all started the party.
He's just perfected it.
Yeah. The foul's been there. Y'all just started the party.
Yeah. Stevie's been a good friend of mine, and it's nice having him around. He loves flirting with my wife.
Yeah. His wife loves flirting with you, so it works out.
Yeah, that's true. It's kind of a win-win.
I like to flirt, period.
Yeah, Steve is a flirt.
Yeah,
I told him over the weekend we had a show. I told him and Tony, I said, I think y'all try to see who can outdo each other when y'all are in public. Like who can out flirt the other one.
That's a good relationship.
I guess.
Have fun.
I guess it's pretty. If you're confident in it, they're pretty dang confident in it. So
Don't bother me.
They're weird. See, we were over at the driveway yesterday, Mark. We got Tony. We were sitting out there, and Tony sat out there with us. We got Tony all turned on in the driveway, and then Steve got to enjoy reap the fruits.
Reap the benefits.
Yeah, the benefits.
Did you blow his nose?
Hey, are we still rolling?
Party time, Mom. Stay horned. Yeah. Hey, for Hot News Natalie, for Party Foul Steve, the Puppet Master Mark, and Candice, Queen of the Ethiopians, who has now left her chair. She's over there. She's the only one around here who actually works. Jeff, good to see you, buddy. Thanks for hanging out. Thanks for talking.
Thanks for having me.
Go see the movie, Walking Point. Also, read some of these books that are out there. Educate yourself, okay? Don't forget how to read. If you don't read, like let's say you get out of college and you don't read, the studies have shown that you will actually go back to like an 8th grade reading level within the space of like 9 months. You need to read. You need to read books. Listen to the books if you don't like to read. Listen to podcasts. I try to, we try to have fun on this podcast, but I want people to learn something too, or at least take something away, or at least something that you can discuss. We're not always going to be 100% right or accurate, but we got pretty strong opinions on things, and we enjoy doing it. But that's the nature of America. Thank God for free speech. But get on Unit 731. There's a bunch of books out there on that. Study up on that. That's interesting. The Man Who Flew the Memphis Belle. Mm-hmm. You recommended that one to me.
That was a good one.
I got that one. That's another book that you need to get. Read Flyboys. Read Flags of Our Fathers. They're good books. Flyboys, to me, was far better, far more interesting read. And a little piece of history that a lot of people don't know about the plight of POWs on Chichijima. And get RJ's book as well.
Hey, Walking Point, yeah.
Get Walking Point. Get the book. Right. Always read the book before you see the movie.
Coming to a film festival near you, hopefully very soon. Yeah.
I love it. Yeah. I love it. All right. I love you guys. We will see you next time. Bye.